My wife cheated with her gym trainer and demanded half of everything in the divorce. But she didn't know the house and savings were in my dad's name. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. I'm 35. I've been an accountant for almost 10 years, working at a local firm. I've always been a practical, pretty level-headed guy. That's probably the only reason I'm holding it together right now. My wife, I'll call her Emily, is 33. We've been together about 5 years, married for 2. No kids, and looking back, that's probably a blessing. Since we got married, Emily hasn't worked. She used to be in marketing, but after the wedding she decided to take a break and focus on us. I didn't mind. I earned enough to support both of us and assumed it was temporary. We had a house, decent savings, nothing extravagant but comfortable. Emily spent most of her time at home, but over the last few months things started to change. I can't pinpoint exactly when I noticed it. She began distancing herself, staying out later after going to the gym or meeting friends. Less affection, more irritation whenever I asked what was wrong. At first I chalked it up to stress, maybe a rough patch in the marriage. But the feeling that something was off kept growing. And yet, I was right. One evening, while Emily was in the shower, her phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen automatically. The message was from someone named Derek. I wouldn't have thought much of it. But the preview said, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow, baby." I opened the chat. Everything I saw confirmed my worst suspicions. She'd been seeing Derek, her personal trainer, for months. The messages were explicit, full of plans, a future that clearly didn't include me. I just froze, staring at the screen. I couldn't believe the woman I married, the person I trusted, was cheating on me. But instead of rage or panic, I felt empty. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was how my brain works. But I knew I needed to talk to her calmly. When she came out of the bathroom, I handed her the phone and asked her to explain. At first, she tried to deny it. "It's a joke. Nothing serious." But when I read a few messages out loud, she realized lying was pointless. "I want a divorce," she said. "No regret, no apology, no guilt, just cold distance." She admitted she'd been seeing Derek for a long time and wasn't happy in our marriage anymore. She wasn't sugarcoating anything. She was leaving to be with him. But what really stunned me came next. Without hesitation, she started talking about dividing assets. She said she wanted half of everything, the house, the savings, all of it. Claimed she deserved it because she'd sacrificed her career for mine. The audacity was unreal. But I stayed calm. Maybe because something inside me had already burned out. Or maybe because I knew something she didn't. I agreed. I told her if she wanted a divorce, I wouldn't fight it. She could take half of what she thought was mine. She looked surprised, like she expected yelling, drama, a breakdown. I wasn't going to give her that. What Emily didn't know, and what I never felt the need to mention, was that almost everything we owned was legally in my dad's name. My dad is strategic. Years ago, when I started making decent money, he suggested putting major assets under his name. He called it a safety net in case of debt, lawsuits, or situations like this. At the time, I didn't think much about it. It seemed like a smart financial decision. So when Emily demanded half, I already knew she wouldn't get what she expected. On paper, I had almost nothing. A modest bank account, my car, some small personal stuff. The house legally belonged to my dad. Most savings were in accounts under his name too. Instead of a messy legal war, I suggested mediation. It felt simpler and cheaper for both of us. She agreed, completely confident she'd walk away with a big piece of my wealth. She had no idea this arrangement had existed for years. Honestly, I'd almost forgotten about it myself until divorce became real. I wasn't preparing for betrayal. But I can't deny, I'm grateful my dad was thinking ahead. The house we lived in formerly belonged to him. Same with most investments and savings Emily had her eye on. I've always lived simply, never flaunted money, so no one, including Emily, asked questions. Once the divorce process started, I told my dad everything. He wasn't happy, but he understood the importance of keeping things quiet. We consulted a lawyer to make sure everything was solid legally. It was, Emily could demand whatever she wanted, There was nothing to take. She quickly hired an aggressive attorney. One of those sharks who promised to take everything possible. I hired someone calmer, experienced, someone who understood complex financial structures. I didn't want a spectacle, but I wasn't going to let Emily and her lawyer push me around. The first stage was asset disclosure, and that's where things stopped going according to her plan. I provided everything required by law, and when she saw how little was in my name, her lawyer stopped smiling. They were confused, suspicious even, but they couldn't prove anything. Everything I submitted was true. No hidden assets. Emily started yelling right there, accusing me of lying, insulting me. After the shouting, I just stood up and said we'd talk when she calmed down. And now I'm here, because I don't know if what I did was right. I agreed to give her half, knowing she wouldn't get anywhere close to what she expected. Update 1. Things are starting to heat up. After the initial asset disclosure, Emily was in complete shock. She clearly thought I was hiding something. She yelled, accused me of lying, and her lawyer wasn't much better. The look on their faces when they saw the modest numbers on paper was priceless. They immediately demanded a deeper investigation. Emily kept asking the same question over and over. Where is all the money? The house, the investments, the savings, everything we supposedly have. She couldn't believe that after years of marriage, there was basically nothing to divide. Her lawyer quickly hired a forensic accountant to dig deeper, convinced I had hidden money in secret accounts. At first, I was nervous, not because I had something to hide, but because I knew this would drag the process out. But after talking with my attorney and reviewing all the paperwork again, I realized they would find nothing. Everything I disclosed was 100% accurate. There wasn't a single paper trail leading to the assets under my dad's name. As the investigation dragged on, Emily's frustration became more obvious. She was used to getting what she wanted. This time, there was nothing to take. The idea that she might walk away with almost nothing was unbearable for her. Her next move was trying to prove she had significantly contributed to my career and our lifestyle. She argued that staying home and running the household allowed me to focus on work and succeed. I'll admit, sometimes having that support made life easier. But I'm not running a Fortune 500 company. I'm a mid-level accountant. My income has been stable for years. There was no dramatic career leap she could point to and say, that was because of me. Still, she kept insisting she sacrificed her marketing career for mine, even though she worked only briefly and chose to quit herself without pressure from me. Her lawyer kept pushing that narrative, trying to frame me as someone who benefited from her sacrifice. There was no real evidence. At one point, they even tried dragging my parents into it. Emily wanted to prove they secretly gave me money or helped hide assets. That really pissed me off. My parents had nothing to do with our marriage, and pulling them into this felt like a low blow. Thankfully, my attorney shut that down quickly. But it was obvious Emily was getting desperate. When the divorce started dragging, she changed tactics. If she couldn't get what she wanted in court, she'd damage my reputation instead. She began telling people in our social circle that I had been hiding money from her, that I was financially abusive throughout our marriage. I couldn't believe the lies she was spreading. Mutual friends told me she constantly complained that I was leaving her with nothing and that I had deceived her into thinking we had more than we actually did. She even took it to social media, vague posts about narcissists, betrayal, that kind of thing, clearly aimed at me. Some people took her side. There are always those who believe whoever looks like the victim. But most of our close friends knew me. They knew I wasn't capable of what she was claiming. It still sucked watching her try to ruin my name just because things weren't going her way. But I tried not to take it personally. I knew the truth. The people who mattered knew it too. And honestly, I had bigger priorities, like making sure she didn't get more than she was entitled to. While Emily focused on her smear campaign, I focused on protecting myself. My lawyer and I stayed in constant contact. We made sure every piece of documentation supporting my position was ready. I documented every interaction with Emily, every demand, every attempt to paint me in a bad light. I knew if this went to court, that record would matter. I also started collecting proof of her affair with Ryan, the trainer. Adultery doesn't always change the legal outcome much, but I wanted it clear that she wasn't the victim here. I had screenshots of their messages, photos of them together, and even statements from some of her friends who knew about the affair but stayed silent. I wasn't trying to humiliate her. I just wanted the truth documented. At the same time, I prepared for the inevitable fallout. I knew that once it became obvious she wouldn't get half the assets, things would get ugly. So I kept my distance, focused on work, focused on rebuilding my life while quietly preparing for the next stage of the divorce. What made things more interesting was Ryan's reaction. When Emily first told him she wanted to leave me for him, he seemed excited. They had that naive fantasy of starting a new life together. But as the divorce turned messy, he started pulling away. Turns out he wasn't as in love as she thought. From what I heard, he began having doubts once he realized being with her meant being dragged into financial drama. Emily expected a glamorous new life with Ryan. He wasn't ready for that. There were even rumors he started losing clients at the gym because of the scandal. Apparently, people don't love training with a guy who sleeps with married clients. Now Ryan is keeping his distance, and Emily is slowly realizing this wasn't a fairy tale. It was an illusion. Sometimes I almost feel sorry for her. Then I remember what she did. My feelings are mixed. On one hand, I feel satisfied. I protected my money. I'm glad Emily isn't walking away with what she expected. But it's still sad. It was my marriage. I loved her once. I believed we were building a life together. Watching it fall apart hurts, even when you know it's for the best. Update 2. Since my last post, things have gotten a lot crazier. Emily is spiraling, and it's starting to show in the worst ways. It looks like she finally understands she isn't getting the payout she expected from the divorce. So now she's trying to turn my life into hell. Her latest move was threatening my career. She told me directly that if I didn't work with her and give her more money, she would make sure everyone at my firm found out what kind of person I really am. At first, I didn't understand what she meant. Then she started showing up at my office unannounced. The first time she stayed calm, pretending she just wanted to talk. But when I told her there was nothing left to discuss, she snapped. Her voice got louder, saying things like, "I'll tell everyone the truth about you." Luckily, I managed to get her out of the building before it became a full scene. But it's obvious she's becoming unpredictable. Her situation at home, meaning her parents' house, where she moved after realizing she wouldn't hit the jackpot, isn't going well either. From what I hear, her parents support her, but they're not thrilled about everything that's happening. Even they seem to be starting to realize her victim role is more performance than reality. Mutual friends say she lashes out, argues with family, and behaves like she's on the edge of a breakdown. The legal side has also become more complicated. Emily's lawyer is digging everywhere, trying to find anything on me. They filed motions to subpoena my parents and request their financial records. Even though my attorney has explained multiple times that my parents' assets are irrelevant to the divorce. It's clearly an attempt to rattle me. It didn't work. Her team also requested depositions from my coworkers, hoping to find hidden income, off-the-books payments, anything. They're grasping at straws and coming up empty. Every time we close one request, another appears. It's starting to feel like an endless chess match. Every move I make, they try to counter. So far, I'm staying one step ahead thanks to my lawyer and the legal structure my dad put in place years ago. Still, it's exhausting. I don't know how long I can keep doing this before it inevitably ends up in court. We've already attempted mediation twice. Both were disasters. The first meeting lasted maybe 20 minutes. Emily refused to budge from demanding half the house and savings. My attorney calmly stated the facts. The house is legally my father's, and there's less money than she believes. She wouldn't listen. She stood up, accused me of lying, and claimed the mediator was biased. The second attempt wasn't any better. This time she arrived with a list of completely unrealistic demands. Full ownership of the house, half the savings, which barely exist, and alimony for at least 5 years. When my lawyer again explained she wasn't entitled to any of that, Emily lost control. She started shouting that she sacrificed everything for me and I was leaving her with nothing. I sat there trying to stay calm, but inside I was boiling. She cheated. She chose to leave. And now she acts like I ruined her life. It's unbelievable. After that meeting, it became clear. This divorce is going to court whether I like it or not. On top of that, Emily has started borrowing money from family and friends to pay legal fees. She obviously didn't expect the divorce to drag on this long, and now her funds are running out. I don't know how she plans to keep paying her aggressive attorney, but that's not my problem. The more desperate she gets, the more unpredictable her behavior becomes. Friends say she spends most of her time at home complaining to anyone who will listen that I destroyed her life. Even her friends are starting to distance themselves. They're tired of the endless drama and the constant victim narrative. Everything Emily expected to gain from this divorce seems to be slipping away. Meanwhile, I'm trying to stay calm and strategic. Every new accusation, I answer with evidence. Every financial document they request, I provide. I have nothing to hide. My attorney makes sure we follow the law to the letter. I can't say the same about Emily's side. I'm also doing everything I can to protect my parents' privacy. Her attempts to drag them into this mess make me furious. Thankfully, there are legal protections preventing her from accessing their financial records. Still, the fact that she even tried shows how desperate she is. She seems convinced that if she digs deep enough, she'll find some hidden treasure. But there's nothing there to find. Update 3. The court date finally arrived, and the atmosphere was tense. Emily testified first, and she went on the offensive immediately. She made it clear she believed I had been hiding assets from her the entire time. She accused me of financial manipulation, secret accounts, and lying about our real finances. She was emotional, presenting herself as the victim left with nothing after sacrificing her career for me. At one point, she even cried on the stand, talking about how she trusted me completely, and how, according to her, I betrayed that trust and took everything from her. But the turning point came when my attorney introduced evidence of her affair with Derek. Once the messages, photos, and timeline of their relationship were shown, it became obvious to everyone in the room, the judge, the jury, everyone, what had really happened. The image of the helpless victim she worked so hard to build started falling apart in real time. She tried to downplay it, saying it was a mistake and irrelevant to the divorce, but it was too late. Her credibility took a major hit, and it became clear that many of her financial demands were driven more by entitlement than reality. When it was my turn to testify, I stayed calm and stuck to facts. My attorney had prepared me well. I knew that emotional reactions or trying to defend myself aggressively would only hurt the case. I explained how my major assets had been structured under my father years earlier, how I fully disclosed my finances, and how I tried to resolve everything peacefully through mediation. I also described her threats, her behavior at my workplace, and the public smear campaign she launched against me. My attorney presented documentation of those incidents, both in legal filings and in public posts, showing that many of her accusations were unfounded. We laid out the reality. The house belongs to my father, our savings are modest, and there is no hidden fortune she could claim. The judge seemed to appreciate my restraint and straightforwardness. I didn't try to paint Emily as a villain, but I didn't sugarcoat anything either. I simply presented facts without drama. Several key witnesses testified, and their statements helped clarify everything. My father spoke first. He explained the financial arrangement we created years ago, confirmed the house is legally his, and that the investments are under his control as part of long-term financial planning. He made it clear those assets are his, not mine, and that Emily has no legal claim to them. Then a coworker testified. Emily's team tried to suggest I had hidden income or off-the-books payments, but my coworker shut that down quickly. He confirmed my salary is stable and that there are no additional income sources. Those testimonies were crucial. They showed the accusations lacked substance. The judge could see there was no conspiracy, just a transparent financial structure Emily never bothered to understand. After several days of testimony and legal arguments, the judge finally delivered the verdict. Hearing that the ruling was in my favor was an enormous relief. Emily's claims to half the house and major assets were denied entirely. The judge ruled that since the house and most investments belong to my father, Emily has no legal rights to them. The only thing awarded was minimal short-term support, barely enough to cover some of her legal costs, let alone the lifestyle she expected. The judge also noted that her infidelity and lack of financial contribution played a role in the decision. Her attempt to frame herself as the victim didn't hold up. When the ruling ended, it felt like a weight lifted off my chest. Months of stress, accusations, fear of losing everything, gone in a moment. Legally, I was finally clear. Emily didn't take it well. As soon as the judge finished, she started crying and shouting that the system was unfair and that I tricked her out of what was rightfully hers. She stormed out of the courtroom, leaving her attorney looking stunned. I don't know what she expected, but she clearly wasn't prepared for defeat. I thanked my lawyer, who handled everything brilliantly, and walked out of the courthouse. My phone started blowing up, friends and family congratulating me. News spread quickly, and soon people in our community were talking about the case. Felt good knowing the truth was out. But Emily wasn't done. Outside the courthouse, she caused another scene, yelling that I manipulated the system and that she would appeal. The problem is, she doesn't have the money. Her attorney had already warned during the case that funds were running low, and from what I hear, she's still borrowing money from relatives just to get by. I'm incredibly grateful to my father for his advice and foresight. I don't even want to imagine where I'd be without it. I'm also thankful to friends, family, and coworkers who didn't turn their backs when Emily tried to damage my reputation. Now I'm looking toward the future with some hope. I know recovery emotionally and financially will take time, but I'm ready to move forward. This experience taught me a lot, and I won't repeat the same mistakes. Right now, I just want a normal life again, and some peace. That's it for now.